Well, Ken, first of all, welcome to Aldershot Town. Shahid, would you like to formally introduce us to Ken?
Well, it's very difficult to introduce Ken because we are friends for about a decade. We first met in Woking to the Bedser the brothers are involved with the Surrey Cricket Club, and when the Bedser passed away, they wanted to leave a legacy, and it was about cricket at state schools, and that's how I got to meet them. And we launched the Bedser Foundation, and sort of Ken and Mickey Stewart became good friends, and who both come to Aldershot on a regular basis, and we since Jack sadly passed away, we wanted a president in there, and spoke to the board about Ken, and then Ken has actually met a number of the board members already, plus a lot of our sponsors, but we'll talk about that later. So it was a unanimous decision, and we're grateful that Ken's come here to support us.
And Ken, of course, we've announced you as our new president, but tell us a little bit more about you.
Well, I think firstly I would support everything Shahid has said, and firstly I had a very rare privilege of, for the last 25 years, pretty much of the life of Alec and his twin brother Eric Bedser, of being their neighbours, and we saw them nearly every day if we were not travelling with our business in the golf tour in those days. And we golfed together here. They were honorary life members here. Alec Bedser himself died as the president of this club, and then thanks to his friendship, his long friendship with Mickey Stewart in Woking, as Shahid has said, we wanted to maintain and perpetuate the Bedser name. The boys wanted very much for cricket to be supported and played in the state schools, and through Shahid, giving his time, giving his offices generously, and really with his real connection with the Woking Council, we managed to rename the bridge that connects Horsell to Woking town centre as the Bedser Bridge, with statues and with all the things really that I think Alec and Eric Bedser would have loved. So that's where our friendship started. My professional life was involved in running the European Golf Tour for pretty much 30 years. I enjoyed every moment of that. But my first love in sport was football and cricket, because my father was Lancastrian, and he was a fine footballer and a fine cricketer back in the day. And from the moment that I could walk, he had me trying to trap and kick and pass a football and head a football, and similarly with cricket. One of my early ambitions was to be good enough to play professional football for my then local team, which was the Perth St Johnstones, still playing today in the Scottish Premier League. But I knew pretty much by the age of 18 that I would not be good enough, because although I played at the county schoolboys level, and I was picked for the county under 18s, under 21s at junior level, against the under 18s at St Johnstone's ground, all the better players were in the under 18s. And I was still under 18 when I played for the 21s. So I quickly knew that my ideas of being good enough to play at senior level were not going to come to pass. But I've always followed them from a distance, because today marks 50 years exactly of my wife and I coming south to work in sport in London. And I think we've just shared, I know you come to the Oval, you're Shahid as chairman of Aldershot, apart from his strong friendship with, I think, the chairman of Chelsea Football Club, has a similar relationship with Richard Thompson, who's the chairman of the Surrey County Cricket Club. So it's really from that we've built upon it. I've also been, if you like, a kind of closet Manchester United supporter, really since the days of the Munich disaster I was 12 years of age, coming off the school bus on the day that that sad news broke of the plane coming down in Munich. My late father revered Duncan Edwards, who he regarded as the finest number 6. That was a left half in those days. I know we have all sorts of numbers now, from maybe 1 to 100 or 1 to 99. Duncan Edwards was the finest left half that my late father ever saw play, and of course he perished along with others in that Munich crash. It never occurred to me that on that dark February day, 1958, that within 20 years I would get to know Alex Ferguson. I'd seen him play because he played for St Johnstone in the 60s, in the days when he was a young, gangly striker that would now be red carded because he always jumped with his elbows out. And through my schoolboy friendship with Archie Knox, a name you may be familiar with, because he became Alex's assistant manager, firstly at Aberdeen, and then for a number of years at Manchester United, I got to know Alex personally. And I can say that we had him at Wentworth, we had him at a number of the Ryder Cups. I have a lovely story about him arriving for the Ryder Cup at the K Club in 2006, when security was very high, and they had Manchester United had played a Saturday night late game at Reading, when Reading were in the Premier League. I think it finished a draw. I can't really remember, but the next morning my mobile phone went, and it was Alex on the phone from Dublin Airport, and we knew he was coming as a guest to that Ryder Cup. But he said, "Ken, they won't let me on the helicopter." He said they want photo ID. And I thought, rather like Shahid thinks on his feet, we both have to think on our feet. I said, she said, can I put the young lady onto you that's refusing me to get on the helicopter? And I said, yes, please. And she said, "Oh, Mr. Schofield, we're very, very sorry about this, but security is very tight." I said, "Have you got any Sunday newspapers there with the sports pages?" He was on the helicopter, and we made him welcome. And that's the kind of friendship, and if you like, the camaraderie that we've had throughout football. Now, having said that, my career was playing schoolboy football in Perthshire, and juvenile and junior football, the levels below the senior level. But my love for the community aspect of local football clubs has never diminished, and now will never diminish, because we need, although we're presently in the fifth tier, when you think of how close that is, and we've been recently in the playoffs, haven't we, to get back, you get Aldershot back into the Football League. When you think of the hundreds of leagues below Aldershot in the pyramid system, that's the real strength of football. That's how I see it.
And let's talk about that community aspect as well a bit more. Shahid, obviously Ken's come in, he's got a lot of background in all sorts of sport. Like he says, football is the priority, and that's the sort of ethos we want to bring to Aldershot Town with this appointment as well.
Yeah, look, I think Ken's been very modest, because I know his connections, I know what he's been involved in. It's the business side of it as well, that he was heavily involved with ECB, you were involved with rugby.
No, really just the cricket. Yeah. Mainly cricket, golf obviously, and my first love, as I've just said to Henry, is and will always be football. I mean, I had the year that I played, Archie Knox played for the schoolboy team, the under 15s, the year after me. He's 1 year younger, and I went to see that game to support him and some of the boys that I still knew. They played on St Johnstone's old ground against Dundee Schools, and the score was Perth Schools 4, Dundee 7, and one player scored 5 goals for Dundee. It was called Peter Lorimer. who was
Leeds.
United,
Yes.
one of the great Leeds teams under Reevy, and who was a Dundee boy, if you like, came south like so many, and who sadly has also passed away recently. But that was the kind of things that we grew up with, and that never leaves you, Henry. You feel the same.
Yeah, exactly. And, relating it back to obviously Aldershot Town as well. You came to our Torquay United game and already you're getting that community environment from some of the fans.
Well, that was evident in the beautiful lounge where we were served a superb meal. But every table was taken. There was, from the moment my wife and I arrived, there was a buzz in the room. And that's at a time when the team this year have been having big challenges, many injuries, many odd goal defeats, some of them heartbreaking defeats after 90 minutes,
Yes.
Well into added time. But the spirit is obvious, Henry, and I hope that that's been your experience. I don't know how long you've worked for the club or at the club. Have you been there for some
This is my third season.
Third season. Well done.
Thank you. But yeah, like you say, it's brilliant, isn't it? Especially with the recent results and the atmosphere especially the home games do bring. They're really passionate.
There were so many things that were impressive on the night. Through Shahid, he had one of the FA Football Association
Jack Pearce.
directors come from Bognor Regis to be there on the evening, and he was superb. He, I think, according to Shahid, and he was very modest about it, he has recently secured further funding for the National League from the Premier League. But amongst the other things that impressed me is when the game finished with that superb 85th minute free kick, fit to win any game at any level. I mean, that free kick could win a Champions League.
Yeah.
The captain came up and spoke with real enthusiasm, and it was quite evident that he wanted to be there. He wanted to be in the room to thank the sponsors, to thank people for their support.
And I think the other thing is that just before Ken obviously became our president, he's also over the number of years have been coming to all our golf days, very supportive of our golf days, and not just on the golf days, he still plays golf with the likes of John Whelan and Natter, Tim Elliott, EVB. We obviously got Kelp Bray on there, so these are all that makes our relationship better. It makes Ken a good figurehead because people who are into golf and cricket, well, there's no better person than having Ken, and and if you look, and Ken was Ryder Cup manager when with Sevi, and when you won the Ryder Cup back in.
We did.
So Ken, so he's got a huge history, and sport is a big thing, and and for us having somebody like Ken as our figurehead, it brings more people to being associated with the football club.
That was my next question. So obviously you have the relationships with some of our sponsors and other people at the club already.
Yes.
Obviously that will be good for us as a football club and for yourself, but obviously we're looking to expand that as well, make sure the whole community appreciates what we're doing as well.
Well, I think again through Shahid's stewardship as chairman, he has brought in wonderful supporters as sponsors. He's mentioned Tim Elliott. We've had ongoing games with Tim. Another fairly local celebrity, although I think he's Guildford based, but an Olympic gold medalist in the past, Alan Wells. He regularly plays with Tim and with other gentlemen that have close associations. With Kevin Matthew, who I think is a member of the lounge.
He's a member of the lounge and member over at Northampton.
And does a lot for charities. Yes. So we've got a number of these communications. I mean, one of the other nice things, Henry, that happened on the night, because through Shahid, Mark Butler?
Yeah.
The commercial manager who I've met through running the golf day, the golf day at Putnam, he made mention of Jack Pearce. Jack Pearce or Leach? Jack Pearce.
Pearce, yeah.
Jack Pearce, as coming from the Football Association's board, and myself to be welcomed. And during the meal, one of the other gentlemen said, "Ken, there's a lady on one of the tables that thinks she was, or knows she was at your daughter's wedding. She'd like just to say hello." And I thought, it's years since our daughters have been, I mean, it happened to be my first daughter, who was 10 months old when we came south 50 years ago. And her, you know, her children, our grandchildren, are now 24 years of age and 20. And I went to see this girl, and I said to her, and she knew exactly that she'd been at Susie's wedding, because Susie had played badminton with her brother. And I said, "And who are you here for, Loopy?" She said, "Oh, I work for Barron's."
Yes.
And she was there on the Barron's table. Now, my understanding is you kindly invited me. I think that they had a big BMW day, which I couldn't play this year because of my surgery. But it's a small world, isn't it? Here was a girl that in 1997 had gone to my daughter's wedding, and she's now at Barron's.
But you had one of your colleagues here who was at the same game.
Well, Patrick Dawson, our revered secretary here at West Hill Golf Club, who is a long-time secretary in golf clubs. He is a huge Manchester City fan, you know, riding the crest of Pep Guardiola's web, if you like, at the moment. But he had spotted in the newspaper, which I think is you doing, Henry, that, as he said to me only yesterday, you and I have been at a major sporting occasion in the last few weeks. And he had gone to retrace his steps because his father had taken him to the recreation ground 40 years ago when he was a boy.
It really is a small world, isn't it?
It is a very, very small world, Henry.
And of course, you talk about, you know, people coming up to you and, you know, introducing themselves,
Yes.
and obviously with the fans as well. If you're next at a game, I'm sure you'd want to introduce yourself to them as well.
I'd be happy to do anything that this gentleman wants to support our club and that you feel can be a benefit, Henry, in your work at any time. I'll gladly do that.
And of course, that obviously moves me on to my final question, really, is, you know, with Ken's appointment, what does the future hold for Aldershot Town?
Look, I think for us, it's you know, there's what one Ken's got huge amounts of history in sports and involving heavily in sort of transforming some of the sports, including, you know, as I say, with the CBE and golf. You know, I think, you know, we can learn from him. I think having somebody like Ken as our figurehead involved in, it brings people in, different people into there that are involved in other sports, and, you know, people like to listen. You know, if you know, I can sit here all day and listen to Ken about all his supporting involvement, particularly that, you know, shown worldwide, highlighted, and in fact, the other thing that is also important is that you also have actually taken over from Peter Alice, who passed away as the
Yes.
Surrey. So, you want to
Yes.
tell us a bit about that?
Yes. Well, again, it's local to Surrey as a county. For a number of years after I finished at the European Tour at the end of 2004, it doesn't seem 17 years, Henry, but it will be at the end of this month. But the then executive director of the County Golf Union, the amateur body, approached me and said, would I consider joining their board? And I gladly did so, and served on it for probably more than 12 years. And through past chairman, a gentleman called Jack Buchanan, who lives in Hindhead, he was a neighbour and very close friend of Peter Alice. And we used to, they changed from a black tie dinner for the county function, because I don't know if you find the same in football, the black tie dinners were going a little bit out of fashion, and they changed for their own reasons to a sponsor lunch, which they did firstly at the Royal Automobile Club in Epsom, and then more recently at Royal Mid Surrey, And through Jack, he brought Peter Alice to do a Q&A. And I brought Neil Coles, who was my chairman of the European Tour. And I anchored it, rather like you're doing with this interview. And the people that came were the member clubs, the sponsors of the County Golf Union, very similar, if you like, in a way to Aldershot Town, many of them local Surrey businesses. And it was just really to say a thank you. And of course, with Peter and Neil holding court, it was normally around April, normally around the time of your golf day, around the time of the United States Masters Golf Tournament, which Peter would go off to commentate on when he was alive. And right up, in fact, until the month, when he died a year ago, next Saturday evening, he'd commentated on the Masters that had been changed due to the pandemic, right in November. He was working right up till he passed away. But with Peter's passing, the same people have asked if I would follow him. Now, it's a very difficult task trying to follow someone in golf similar to Peter Alice, if you like. And I can't do the job that Peter did with his great presence, but I could maybe try to do it in a different way. And that's the type of thing I think that we try to bring in our daily dealings, don't we?
Well, again, Peter Alice, when there was when the Ryder Cup or the US Masters was on, people would ask him, well, who do you support in football? Is it Manchester United or Liverpool? And he always said, oh, well, I supported a little club nobody heard of in Hampshire called Aldershot Town Football Club. So yeah, that's what he always. So that used to get a lot of PR work and then again, obviously through with Kevin Matthew, who obviously Justin
Rose.
Justin Rose,
yes.
Again, obviously you know him very well.
Yes.
Who's obviously supported the football club through a few times, for financial or auction items. Again, so it's a small world because we are proud of our town. We're proud of our football club. We're home of the British Army. And there's loads of links that we've got, and we have a good profile, and with having Ken on there has hopefully raised our profile, even to the next level.
Exactly. And Ken, just a final word from you about you joining us here at Aldershot Town.
Well, I'm obviously thrilled, Henry. The welcome that my wife and I were given on the night of the Torquay match was superb. It matched anything that we have been part of in sport. And bear in mind, my life has been in sport, albeit professional golf administration and not football for the last 50 years. But it was my first love, and to have this opportunity to join Aldershot Town with Shahid, with everyone, I just think the team ethos will win through. And I think the more we can build the profile of the football club, firstly in the town and then in the wider Surrey communities, the better.
And do you know when your next game will be yet, Ken?
Yes, I've said to Shahid, I have some slight conflicts with the Saturday fixtures because that 24-year-old grandson plays in Woking hockey team's first team, and he also does a lot of coaching, including at Gordon School, which I think again is an Aldershot connection, because through the chairman here, that's where the boys train, isn't it? At Gordon School. He teaches hockey at Gordon School, and they've just similar to Aldershot until the Torquay and until the win at King's Lynn on Saturday. The hockey team have been having a challenging start to the season. They had a 6-1 win against Lewis last night in a rearranged fixture, and it got them out of the bottom three. But they're facing challenging times, so I hope to become a regular at the midweek fixtures, and whenever there is the hockey teams take time off, I think almost, but maybe not quite, in tandem with the school holidays, So that's when I'll be able to come. That's my only sporting conflict.
Are you in with a shot? Look below for more information.
Click here for the next video, click here to subscribe.